Brodes Media.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? If you are new to the channel, make sure you smash that subscribe button. We are on our journey to 20,000 subscribers. I love you all so much. You are the best. Thank you. Also, on Twitter, we are super close to 6,000 followers on Twitter at Brodes81. Fantastic follow, if I do say so myself. So make sure you go over there, smash that follow button, and like this video, of course. And that's basically all I have. So enjoy the show. What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. I'm not very happy, I'll be honest with you. I'm not satisfied with the split, even though you lost your 2 games with Matt Moore and Vince Velasquez and won your 2 with Zack Wheeler and Aaron Nola. That's such a flawed way to look at things. We discussed the Phillies having the easiest second half in all of baseball for a reason. You can't split series if that's the case. The reason why we looked at that as a positive is because you were home against some of your division opponents, and when that opportunity shows its head, you got to knock it out of the park. You have to take 3 of 4. You can't be okay with splits if you think that, well, if you win your games with Zack Wheeler and Aaron Nola is going to be a good enough philosophy. Guess what? You're winning 2 out of every 5 baseball games. And by the way, as awesome as Aaron Nola was, who am I to now think that he's going to be this version of himself every single time he hits the mound? More times than not, he's been bad. I'm proud of him, and he needs to continue this. I'm proud that he now has this under his belt, and maybe there's some confidence that could build, because that's going to have to transition inside. He's going to have to believe, I can do this, and witnessing what occurred today, it would have been nice to see the complete game. And I don't hate Joe Girardi for making that decision at 116 pitches. You hear the boos. I mean, what are we talking about here? It's a 2-0 game. How huge was Torreyes, by the way, for that solo shot? And it's no longer Torreyes just being a spark plug. He has been doing it for a long period of time. Sometimes you get a bench piece that comes out and he plays really well for 2.5 weeks, and that's the energizer, buddy. While there is something to that nature happening with Torreyes, the energizer, at the same time, this is legitimate production now. And to be fair, when you look at the bench pieces the Phillies have, like, I'm not big on the Luke Williams of the world, the Jankowskis of the world. Ronald Torreyes and Brad Miller are actual MLB players, legitimate options for benches, but you got yourself a spot starter around the diamond in Torreyes, and he's been ridiculously good. Keep in mind, Didi Gregorius with the sloppy play at shortstop and can't even complete the fundamentals. I think, you know, that's big. That's big. I've been screaming for how long now about Bohm and how much the defense is such a serious issue. One of my buddies said, look, starting pitching is the problem. It starts with starting pitching. You fill out the rotation and then things naturally kind of find its way behind them. But my argument is, how so? Sometimes you're now demanding your pitching that's already somewhat spotty on that night to have to get 4 outs an inning. If you have 2 hours, now you're forcing a pitcher to have to do what? Get more outs, throw more pitches, pitch count rises. You're not going to have the ability to go deep into ball games if that's the case. That left side of the diamond, I guess if you're batting, you know, I'm thinking that left side of the diamond, baby. It's a problem. Can't happen. Disgrace. Alec Bohm with another sloppy play. You know, at some point, they actually labeled it a hit. This is Major League Baseball. Alec Bohm has to provide that defensive play. You see what happens when Gene Segura's out there? Yeah, I said that. He makes errors. He makes mental mistakes. But how about that play deep in the game? And Aaron Nola referenced it. And, I didn't plan on just getting thrown into game 4 here, but it's the most relevant game because it was the latest game. I'm going to look at the entire series because I was a little busy over the weekend and I didn't get to do game by game. So at one point I was like, you know what, I'll just smash all 4 games together and we'll take some anytime hotline calls and kind of dissect the storylines from all 4 games. But yeah, I mean, Aaron Nola, he was ridiculous. He's been struggling with players in scoring position. He's been struggling with 2 outs. He's been struggling basically all over the damn place. And he was ridiculously good tonight. How many swing and misses? I mean, that's beautiful stuff out of Nola. Working the count early, curveball doing well, putting himself in a position. There was a time where all I would focus on with Zack Wheeler is how many damn 0-2 counts he found himself in. You know, good luck. Good luck. If you're the hitter and you're at the dish and you're down 0-2 to Zack Wheeler, yeah, I'll take my bet that Wheeler completes the job. Aaron Nola was working out in front, and he had his pitches going. The command was there. Very special outing out of Nola, and that's what he needs. I mean, he needed to get the monkey off the back, if you will. He had to get that slump over with somehow, and sometimes all it takes, we see it with hitters all the time, you get one swing, one little, even if it's a little dinky, how do you do that lands in the outfield in front of the left fielder and behind shortstop or behind third base? That could be the difference in going on a 10-game journey at the plate. Well, guess what? An outing like this where you go 8 2/3 and you basically shred through a lineup that can do some damage. And I didn't love the home run late, but Suarez came in and, I mean, what are we looking at here? Ranger Suarez. It continues to happen. I've been on the side of being cautiously optimistic on jumping all in on Ranger Suarez. Well, I do have to admit that it's going longer than I thought. There was the hiccup. And there's always going to be hiccups. It's about the response. Common theme I like to stress. Well, yeah, the response has been just tremendous. So they won Game 4, and it makes you feel, hey, you know, they fought into this series, and they split with the Braves. That's not terrible. No, it's terrible. It is. It's terrible. You were looking at this back end of the schedule as the easiest in baseball. And I mentioned this at the time. That means you have to win games against your bad division. But the reason why you look at the Nationals and you look at the Braves as beatable teams on an easy schedule is because they're in this division of garbage. But so are the Phillies. The Phillies are applied to the context of nobody knows how to win baseball games legitimately in the National League East. So why, just because their schedule is easier, should I expect anything to change? They are a part of the problem when looking at this division. They stink. They're not good enough. They make you believe they're good enough. They're not good enough. As you saw in Game 3 with Vinny V. This cracks me the hell up. I guess we're going to work our way backwards. Whatever. I guess we are. Game 3, Vinny V. What a joke. I mean, who is this guy to talk about Joe Girardi yanking him from the game? Dude, you've had 7,000 different opportunities to win a starting job in this city, and you fail. You fail miserably. Now, there were times this year where we probably saw the best Vince Velasquez we've ever seen, but reality strikes. At some point, that's going to fade, and you will return to the Vince Velasquez that you have been 98% of the time when you take the mound. So you have no say if you're Zack Wheeler, if you're Aaron Nola, if you're Zach Eflin. By all means, I think you have the respect to maybe show a bit of fight. We saw this a couple weeks ago with Boone and Garrett Cole on the mound. I'm fucking staying, and I'm finishing. We've seen it with Madison Bumgarner a billion times. You can't do it if you're Vinny V and you're garbage and you're getting shelled. And I think the comments are just hysterical about it. Here's some of the quotes that went down at that press conference afterwards. I've been in a situation giving up 4 or 5 runs, but I still got to go out and execute to give a chance to our team. Our offense has been pretty good, I would say. Just try to hold the deficit within 4. You know, only 53 pitches. I know I have more room to make kind of those improvements and at least go deep as far as I possibly can. So it kind of threw me off guard being taken out early. But Joe made the decision. My intention is to go out and keep pitching as far as I possibly can. And I know there's hype. There's more expectations out of me. But in a situation like that, I can't do nothing when you take the ball out of my hand. And only 53 pitches. I still have a lot of arm left, man. What are we talking about? Vince, you stink! You stink! He always, I will admit, he always steps up to the media, always talks about, you know, I got to be better. I got to be better. The last 2 times, though, he spoke, I mean, he got shelled in, I believe it was Fenway. And afterwards, he said, there's a lot of positives to take out of that. Vince, are you delusional, bud? Are you delusional? I'm going to look up exactly what the outing was there. I mean, he got embarrassed and absolutely annihilated that night. And he came out after the game and said, I think I can take some positives. My point is, he normally does say the right things and holds himself accountable, even though at some point, shut up and just compete. Shut up and actually finish what you're set out to do, right? You have a goal to get accomplished. Pitch a better baseball game. I'm sick and tired of you hearing about, I need to do this. I should do this. It's time to just do it. So eventually it runs dry. Okay, it was 2 outings ago. It was 11-5. He went 2 1/3, allowed 8 earned runs, 3 home runs, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts, 6 hits allowed. And he truly looked himself in the mirror afterwards and said there were some positives. Here he was against Atlanta in a 15-3 game where you're throwing Ronald Torreyes, which is just embarrassing. The amount of position players I've seen over the last handful of years pitch on the diamond for the Phillies makes me sick. I want to throw up. In Game 3 of this Brave series, though, 2 1/3, 6 earned runs, 2 home runs, 2 walks, 3 Ks was his finishing stat line. It's hilarious. And Joe Girardi did kind of throw some shade back in his direction. Command has not been good. His fastball location was not good tonight. His breaking ball location was not good tonight, especially to the left-handers, Girardi said. It's hard to pitch if you don't locate the baseball, and he has not been doing that as well as he was early on. So he did talk about it. Said he gave a rather blunt assessment of what he saw from Vince Velasquez, who now has a 7.55 ERA over his last 7 starts. I mean, the audacity. I think he's realizing maybe that's what it is. The emotions are settling in, and he's fully somewhat digesting what's going to happen. It's time. It's time. Now, for the rest of this year, I don't know. I mean, it's funny. You look at the National Series lineup right now, and things can obviously change, but it's Spencer Howard, Matt Moore, Zack Wheeler, Vince Velasquez. So, obviously, things can change. As I alluded to, I saw Chase Anderson getting moved around. And with this whole COVID protocol thing, though, you got Jankowski and this and that. I mean, it's just an absolute nightmare that they're dealing with it. But that's their actions. You have to look at their actions, and they make a decision. They're grown adults. If they don't feel like going through with what they feel is what they should go through with, you have to pay the consequences. And your consequences are making your organization look absolutely silly and putting your team in a position to fail, a closer position to fail than it is succeed. But you need to know that this is happening because of your choice, and you are a grown human who can make their own decisions, but you're going to have to pay. And well, it's clear that the Phillies are, with all this contact tracing news that happened basically when they were in Fenway, bringing up Fenway Park again. 15-3, was it that atrocious game? De Los Santos is always a horrible sighting. Every time you see De Los Santos or David Hale before he got out of town, you knew this game was out of hand. This is basically saying, hey, we wave the white flag. We don't feel like competing anymore. Let's just lose, get this over with. And yeah, I mean, Freeman was disgusting that game. 2 for 4 with 3 runs, 2 RBIs, and he was also walked. Swanson had 3 hits. Jock Peterson had 4, and they win a baseball game with Drew Smiley on the mound. It's just incredible. Now, game 2 of this series, and I don't like how we're working backwards, but we are working backwards, and I already said that, but it makes me feel weird as I'm now kind of thinking of it back in my head. The Braves lost 5-1. I was actually at that game. I was in attendance, and it was a great game to be at. First off, Citizens Bank Park was beautiful. There wasn't any stickiness. It wasn't humid. It was great seats behind right field, behind Bryce Harper. It was great. I really enjoyed every single moment on my little date night that I had with the fiance. And Zack Wheeler performed very well. You got a lot of good efforts out of your top dogs in this series. Wheeler, 7 innings, 7 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts. He threw 111 pitches. So, you're carrying some weight here on the shoulders of Aaron Nola and Zack Wheeler with the pitch count, and maybe they feel the sense of urgency to have to do that. they don't feel sense of urgency very often, and I'll explain more as I go towards game 1 of this series. They're normally, if anything, on the precautionary side. And I had Bob Wankel of Crossing Broad on the Fanatic 2 weekends ago, and one of the things he brought up was maybe because of how many innings pitched Zack Wheeler has, you think about taking a stride backwards, and if you can get him out in the 6th or get him out 6 2/3, maybe you look at that and just try to find ways throughout the back half to keep his count limited. And while I understand what Bob is saying, I'm not disagreeing with what he's claiming is something that, one, you could see this organization doing because they've only mentioned it a billion times this season, or C, or 2, A, F, 6. I don't know how I was counting, and I totally just lost my train of thought, and my brain has now been a big pile of mush. Yes, what you can do with Zack Wheeler. You can either limit his pitches or, but the way I look at it is, you're in go mode. You have to go all in. You either go maximum capacity and blow out 300% because that's what you're going to need to get over the Mets if somehow you do, which I don't believe there is going to be a chance that they do. But if somehow they do, you need 6,000%. You need 120 pitches from Zack Wheeler because your bullpen isn't going to do it at enough of a rate where you can believe in it. Something Dave Dombrowski mentioned recently was when you look at your 4 and 5 starters and when you think about your back end of your starting rotation, if they can give you about 5 innings and then you have a steady, strong bullpen, then you can be okay with that. If you look around the league, that's what 4 and 5 starters do. If you have a bullpen, that makes sense. So with that, and I had Scott Lauber, who covers the Phillies for the Inquirer, on the Fanatic tonight. I hosted 4 to 8. I'm doing this after I got home, and it was an awesome show. I thank him a lot for hopping on. He talked about, he sees maybe a Craig Kimbrell, just based off of the way that Dave Dombrowski has spoken, the way that he has somewhat given out hints on the way that they're thinking. Maybe that's an element they go for. They try and bolster up the bullpen, and then when they look at their 4 and 5 starters, instead of the starting pitching market, use the bullpen to maybe make you feel more confident in what you can get out of your bullpen, because your starting pitching, because not only can your starters at the end not go very deep, when you have to start throwing in your bullpen, you're seeing the De Los Santos. You're seeing these players that can't operate and function at a high enough clip. So if you bolster up the bullpen, those situations feel a lot smoother. Maybe you can come out with more wins in those regards. But it's crazy. There's so much pressure to finally end this drought of no playoff baseball. But how much do you go in if you're the franchise? I don't see McAble being moved. I don't see Bryson Stott being moved. And those other pieces can get you rentals, I believe, or, just guys. But do you take that chance? Are you forced to take that chance because of where you are in this division? Any other division, you're selling, and it's not even close. This division, you're giving yourself this fake hope, and you're just applying Band-Aids to the wounds, thinking that that's going to change something just to slide in. But Scott brought up an interesting point as well. Back in 2007, that run that they went on late was a significant piece to that time. We talk about 2008, 2009, and 2010, and just that journey that we experienced. Without 2007 playing out the way that it did, I mean, who knows? Do you have the same team? It's that taste. It's that step in the right direction. It's that start that transitions the franchise, and getting this team an opportunity just to smell what a playoff game is like. Even if they get smacked, even if they get bent overs, there's something to, just the moment and understanding what it's like. And yeah, there's truth to that, and there's a balance here that I'm trying to figure out. But at the end of the day, I believe this team stinks, and this team is just not good. They're 500. They're constantly 500. They're 500 every single damn other day. They win one, they lose one. They win one, they lose one. I mean, they're just mediocre. It's what they are. We can't keep pretending that they're not this. And even if you do make additions, there's so many problems that I don't know if, okay, the bullpen's better. Well, your defense stinks. Your defense is absolute utter garbage. You're hitting with runners in scoring position. It continues to be an issue. For sure, it's still an issue. You're not getting enough. By the way, that game too, Bryce Harper, I'm just thinking about him in general because I started to switch over to the offense in my brain. Wow, how about him on the base paths, huh? Just a mean motherfucker, dude. Just a mean motherfucker that's willing to just commit nonstop, full speed. Just, Oh, it's beautiful. Now, the Phillies are getting a little, maybe the word's creative, maybe the word's silly. It worked with the double steal, but here's Rhys Hoskins again, who's basically just giving the Braves an out at third base. I just don't understand what they're trying to do with Rhys. When they got picked off against the Yankees, it was, well, it's whoever's telling him to run, it's on them. And I say, no, it's not. It's on both. It's on the party that told Rhys Hoskins to go, even though Chapman with the lefty, with the leg, you go on the leg movement. You still have to have instincts as a base runner. Whatever they're doing, it worked on the double steal, but, I mean, it is kind of gross to witness Rhys Hoskins as if we're just running Roman Quinn around town or Jankowski around town to create havoc on the base paths. You're not creating havoc with Rhys Hoskins. My man can't move. And maybe that's what they're trying to do. Hey, they won't expect it to be Rhys. They won't expect any sort of flair from Rhys on the bases. Well, is this working? I mean, it worked once for that run, but the other two, it didn't work out even close. I mean, it was bad. It was bad baseball. Don't know their belief in Rhys Hoskins on the bases. What else happened that game? Archie Bradley came in, did okay. Suarez came in, did okay. Max Fried had a tough day at the office. 5 innings pitched, 4 hits? I feel like it's strange that I wrote 4 hits down. I didn't write his earned runs. So now I am bothered, and I'm going to have to check exactly what it is. What was that? That was Friday night's game. I also want to read some stats on Aaron Nola. I don't know why I would write 4 hits, you know? Like, I feel like I would write earned runs. Max Fried, hitting. I don't care about him hitting. 4 earned runs. 6 hits. I knew that didn't sound right. How about that? Catching myself. I know myself. All right, so with some Nola action. The Phillies had been 4-8 in his last 12 starts. 2 of those were wins because they scored 13 and 15 runs. Nola entered the day with a 5.86 ERA over his last dozen starts. This looked more like the 3.13 ERA from the 2018 to 20 range. And this is coming off of NBC Sports Philadelphia. This is a quote from Nola. I think this year has been up and down for me, home and away. It's nothing mental, just how it's worked out this year. Today felt good, and that was a big win for us. You know, while he's obviously bothered because it's him, and he could tell you he's not bothered about it, like, you know, it's the way he's approaching it is something along the lines of, it's just the way baseball's going this year. And you can say that, but we're all human beings. There's obviously an emotional side of this where you're not happy. I've been pretty consistent on this. Like, I don't think this is who Aaron Nola is. He does seem to have a good, strong built mentally when going through adversity and whatnot. Like, right now, it's spiraled out of control for this season, and you see moments here and there. I don't think you'll see a trajectory of his entire career moving forward just going down this path. I do sense that he figures it out. He's got the determination and will in the offseason to kind of pluck this thing back in the right direction. Sort of like with the Braves. Nobody's really anticipating the Braves to just be this version of themselves for the next handful of years. You know that next season begins and Ronald Acuna's healthy and Freddie Freeman's not starting off the season as poorly as he did this year, and he's jumping out right from the gates on this hot ride. And, you know, you just got to get healthier with your starting rotation, and maybe they make moves to their bullpen entering the new season to kind of help out where they are there. And the Braves are going to kind of just be the Braves again. Like, you just anticipate that happening because, well, they've been a good team and a sharp team for a while. Nola's been sharper than this for a while, so I anticipate it kind of changed in that direction, just maybe not fully this year. But if it starts this year with this game where he goes 8 2/3, then by all means, you know, I'm here for it. But Nola, I'm very happy for him to have this. You know, this isn't the time to see, oh, you were wrong, he is an ace. Like, come on. I saw some of that on Twitter, actually, which is just bonkers. Before we keep on going here, DraftKings Sportsbook is not only my favorite sportsbook, but America's top-rated sportsbook. Speaking of America, our top athletes are over in Tokyo competing for the gold, and DraftKings has a medal-worthy offer just for my listeners. Listen to this great offer. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits. That's promo code Brodes to turn $1 into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana, 1-800-9 with it. Yeah, so in game one, they lost 7-2. I want to get to these anytime hotline calls, but just real quickly on that 7-2 loss, no urgency. You start out a series after losing a couple games in a row. Andrew Knapp's in the lineup instead of JT. Odubel Herrera not being ready to compete out in center field and being lazy to start. And then, Andrew Knapp had a couple different moments. A ball went in the dirt and got past him. He should have been able to apply that tag in the first inning or for the first runs there for the Braves. That should just not have happened whatsoever. He laid down a horrific bunt. It's just stupid baseball, and it cannot happen. So Matt Moore gets annihilated. Grand slam for Dansby Swanson. There was runs being walked in. They were 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. It wasn't good. Morton had 8 strikeouts in 6 innings. And what bothers me is you just lost 2 games in New York to the Yankees. And, okay, whatever. 2 games set. You're on the road. You lose. You're at home against division opponents, and you're not ready to play. How are you not ready to play in that moment? That's a spit in the face. That's what it is. Us fans that pour our emotions into this team, that's a spit in the face. I can't accept anyone being okay with this series because, they won with Nola and Wheeler and they lost with Moore and Velasquez. That's supposed to happen. If that's supposed to happen, then I hate to break it to you, this team's going nowhere. Because then you're getting 2 out of 5 wins. That's what you're getting. Oh, but Eflin will be back. No, we haven't heard anything for a reason. You're not going to hear anything. I'm telling you, it's probably going to be worse than you think. All right, let's go to the Anytime Hotline, though, and hear from you. Here we go.
Hey, wait a minute. I thought Aaron Nola was not an ace. I thought he needed to be traded. I thought he sucked. And what does big bad Nola do? Blows the Braves' house in with a 1 strike away from a complete game shutout, man. Rangers Suarez, only 4 pitches necessary to back him up after throwing 116 pitches. Bring us ahead to the Washington Nationals. Let's get back at them for that 13-12 garbage. Over to you, Brodes.
I'm disappointed in you. First off, that was weird that you mentioned that as soon as I mentioned the troll Twitter guys out there that felt that passionate about Aaron Nola and his effort tonight. What are we talking about here, man? I mean, I just told you the numbers of basically almost a 6 ERA over his last 12 starts, and he puts together that, and apparently you're ready to throw him back at the ace. He has a 5.86 ERA over his last dozen starts. We can stop with that nonsense. I like Aaron Nola a lot. Nobody is discrediting that he has that type of capability. He has that type of dog in him, and he can put away guys when he's cruising, when he's got that curveball, when he has that fastball command. I mean, a lot of this all stems from not having command with your pitches, and then, you kind of get thrown in for a loop. You can't get established. You can't get into rhythm, and you're not confident in your pitches. So it all stems from that. Nobody is shocked that Nola can do this. We know Nola can do this. He has not done this for a lot of the season. Therefore, we hold him to this high standard because we know the ability is in there and we haven't seen it. So when you say someone sucks when they go through a spurt like that, it's not saying the guy's actually like the worst pitcher in the world. It's just more from what he's supposed to be. Nola sucks right now. It's more out of frustration of obviously he isn't the worst pitcher and he can have and hold his own. He can have very strong outings. Now, I love this too, though, because you brought up the trade thing. It's pretty clear why people say to trade certain individuals. There's a specific person on Twitter that tweets at me every day that I am a Rhys Hoskins hater. Not a Rhys Hoskins hater. I would trade Rhys Hoskins because he's good and he has value. And the Phillies need to get players in return in this organization to rebuild this thing. He's good, therefore trading him gets you a good package. I value the package. Aaron Nola, team-friendly deal. He's better than what he showed this year, therefore, good package. Players will, or organizations will look at players that have the track record of Aaron Nola and think, hold on, let's put together some pieces here. Let's add Aaron Nola to my staff. Then the Phillies get a good package in return. Saying it's time to move on from some of these players to get a change isn't because these players are just the worst players ever. It's because they actually bring you back value. Therefore, you see what they are capable of doing. There is a huge difference there. Can't be lost. Definitely.
What's up, bros? The Phillies just beat the Braves 2-1 in Game 4 of this 4-game series. The Phillies split with the Braves. The Phillies won the starts by Aaron Nola and Zack Wheeler, and then they lost with Matt Moore and Vince Velasquez, which should have been expected, but Aaron Nola was masterful. It was pretty much like the game he had versus the Cardinals back in April, but he was phenomenal. He had his curveball going. His fastball was great too. But yeah, he looked like the old Aaron Nola, and you hope he can continue this stretch.
That was vintage Aaron Nola. That reminds me of when it was Go Nola Day, and when it was like, hey, Nola is cruising and he's must watch every time he's on the mound. Yeah, that was the Aaron Nola that we got, and that was provided for us. A lot of times this year, I'm intrigued. I kind of shrug my shoulders, but I'm intrigued because I want to see what Aaron Nola we're getting. I'm fascinated by his individual storyline this year because it is strange for him to fall off a cliff the way that he has, and it is strange to see him so uncomfortable on the mound. It's not what we're accustomed to seeing. We are so used to and Nola that is like, wow, who wows us, who's cruising. You mentioned the curveball, like utilizing that pitch. That's what we've grown into knowing for a while. Seeing it is bizarre. So I chalk it up to I don't know what I'm going to get, but I'm very interested in the outcome, and I'm very interested in his journey, but you never know. It reminded me of all those outings in years past where they show the face up and it's no emotion, Nola just cruising and doing his thing, Doesn't have a lot of emotion out there, just doing his thing. I hope we can get that more. Okay, so not all of these are, I'm just looking at the timestamps on some of these calls that I'm clicking on. Some of these might be, after Game 1, after Game 2, so just to get natural reaction from the series in general.
This is just so fucking pathetic. Matt Moore, I'd rather have AAA players than him. This guy sucks, and we just keep throwing him out there. We just keep giving him a chance. The only two people on the team that can hit the ball are Gene Skura and Ronald Torres. Why can't everyone just hit singles like that? Stop trying to go for the home run. Why is JT taking an off day today? We need him to play as many games as possible, but let's play Nap. Let's play Nap and see what happens. But, you have no chance when Matt Moore pitches. It's just awful.
That's just a lack of drafting, a lack of development. It goes through their system because Spencer Howard fails, because Vince Velasquez fails, because Nick Pivetta fails, because all of these individuals are not stepping up and doing their jobs. It forces you to take a chance on Chase Anderson. It takes a chance on Matt Moore. All those problems are what creates you to take that chance. You know what I mean? So, if you hit on Ian Anderson or Rogers from Miami and those guys are in your starting rotation, you're not even going after a player like Matt Moore to step in. But unfortunately, that's how bad this organization is. It's terrible. And while, that game specifically, you left guys with runners in scoring position, and there have been some pretty hideous at-bats in big moments. Jankowski had one, was that the series before that I'm thinking of, with 3 off-speed pitches in the dirt, and he's just swinging. I saw Bohm have some bad at-bats as well at times. I got you. Sometimes it is about just putting the ball in play and scoring, and they have kind of adapted that identity of small ball and unique ways of scoring as of late, so I'm not discrediting that, but they've just got to get the timely hits in general, get a more rate at a more, hey, let's go here, fellas. Can't be leaving so many guys on. It's going to come back to bite you. And you look at a lead that maybe could have been 4 runs. Instead, it's only 2 runs. And guess what? It's easier to come back, especially with this bullpen, when you don't know what you're going to get on a night-to-night basis. All right, one more here. Let's take another one.
Hey, Brodes. This is Keith from Hagerstown, Maryland. I watch your podcast all the time. I enjoy it. We know that the Phillies have average bullpen at best, average defense at best. But one of the biggest eye-popping stats that I've seen is Bryce Harper's only had 53 at-bats with runners in scoring position. I feel like, even with him being injured and hurt, I feel like that number is way too low. And if this team wants to succeed, it's going to come a lot off offense and starting pitching. I feel like he has to have more at-bats with starting with runners in scoring position. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, for sure. We've definitely touched on that throughout the season, considering all the solo home runs that he had. But, you touch on you need to have starting pitching and you need to have that offense. Well, I can make the argument where if you have that, but your defense is this bad and your bullpen is this bad, like you say the defense could be average at best. I don't know if they can. At best, I still believe they're below average. I mean, they literally are statistically the second worst defense in all of baseball, unless that has changed since the last week or so when I saw it. Maybe it is one by now. I mean, I wouldn't rule that out of the equation. I honestly don't know. But last week, it was definitely 2 statistically. So at best, I mean, I don't know if you even are average. And with the bullpen, yeah, they definitely have average moments and they have clean moments and they have been a little bit better as of late with Ranger Suarez in the mix. And who knows, if they get a Kimbrel, maybe that is a name that helps solidify that even more. So Suarez becomes more of an 8th inning guy and Kimbrel can be the 9th inning guy. And now, you got to figure out a 7th inning or so. It makes it easier, obviously. But there's so many problems with this team where if you fix what you talk about with starting pitching, well, there's still 4 other problems. And you can't fix all those. And the Band-Aids ain't going to fly. So that's, unfortunately, where the Phillies are. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. I'm losing my mind with this team because, people still believe. And it's like, man, don't you see what I see? They do this every year. They're only doing what they always do. They make you believe. They get you so close, and then they just yank you away every time. Every time. Enough is enough. It's like being with the hot chick that keeps teasing you. You're not going to get her. She's just playing with you. She's just toying with you. That's the Phils. We got to realize that. I'm like, oh, babe, I'm going to Tinder, and you find a new broad. Let's do that without finding the new broad. Finding the new broad in this hypothetical is the Phillies resurfacing and rechanging and retooling, and we end up falling in love with their new identity that they create after making some serious organizational moves. We're not really going to take away our love from the Phillies. So maybe that was the worst description I could have ever gave in the world, and I tend to do that sometimes. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening to this episode, and I will see you next time.